Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I am a voice teacher. I'm going to be reacting to and analyzing K-pop idols' best high notes in live performances. This is part 2. If you want to go see part 1 of this video for the first 8.5 minutes, go look on my channel. Nice sustain. Yeah, so that was on a C5, which is it's a reasonably high note for a belt sound in a woman's voice. It's kind of right in the middle of most women's second bridge, and because of that, it's got like a weird feeling to it a lot of the time. What she did was really good. She didn't press into it. She just let it be a really easy sound, and because her vocal cords were together, not very much air was getting through. So to make a vibration, to make a pitch, it starts with your vocal cords coming together. So for this, I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it's around 500 times a second your vocal cords come together. If they're coming together just for a little bit every time that they come together, that means a lot of air is getting out. If they're coming together a little bit more through the cycle, that means that the air and muscle are a little bit more balanced. And because of that, she's able to hold this note for a super long time. So that was in a falsetto. He flipped up into it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a different sort of sound. It's not going to be as connected or as weighty or as present as if he was doing it in a mix where his vocal cords were more together. I think that falsetto has generally become more of a description of a sound rather than anything specific for how it's made. And some people will agree with me and some people will disagree with me on that. And I'm completely fine with that because it feels like there are so many opinions regarding this. So for me, that was falsetto. It wasn't nearly as connected. That seemed pretty difficult. That one, I'm not sure what was going on with it. The first one, it kind of looked like she was uncomfortable singing it. It was okay. It just looked like she had to remove it really quick from the microphone so that it wouldn't get too tight or anything. I just wonder if she felt like she was about to lose it, like her voice was about to crack, and so she just let go. It was kind of a compressed sound, and compression like that, like over compression like that, generally is not the most sustainable. So if you're doing it for a while or if you've been dancing for a while, it's really hard to make that sound in that way. Nice. It's a very open sound. I like that. Cool note choices, actually. I kind of like that. The first time that she started, she was singing a little bit lower, but as she went up to the high note, to this big, impressive, best high note in live performance, she didn't increase anything. She just kept the same amount of pressure, the same amount of effort that she had on her low note. Because she was able to keep that same amount of effort and that feeling of balance, she was able to go up and then up more and then down and do all of that fun stuff, and it didn't really cause any problems in her voice. I dig it. It started getting a little bit harder at the end. I think that if he had just let his tongue come out a little bit more, it would have been nice. But the strategy that he was using, that is actually really common, especially in metal, in classic metal especially, where people go... It's that like really nasty sound, and it helps you find a very connected place. The tendency, though, once you find there, is to press in, and that's my tendency really often, is to just kind of get too comfortable with it and then start to get too heavy. I think that's what was happening near the end of this with him, where it started getting a little bit hard, a little bit more challenging. Some people call this a pharyngeal sound, some people call it twang, some people call it nasty, but that's kind of what it does, is it allows your vocal cords to thin out and still maintain a lot of resistance. He's really good. I like how at the top he kind of bent over. I know it was mostly for show with this, but it still is helpful. And sometimes if you are singing live, you need to pull out something from your bag of tricks. Maybe bending over at the waist like that was one of his tricks to help him get up to that note a little bit easier. He's also just very, very good, so I don't think he needed that trick, but sometimes going back and revisiting things that were really helpful is a nice way to remind yourself in the middle of a moment that might be stressful or something, how singing well feels. So that could be it. Either way, I mean, it was really cool. Cool little harmony. On the way up, her onsets were glottal in nature, which means that the vocal cords are coming together before the air does. Like if you were lifting something really heavy and you went, huh, oh, and then you started making sound after it. So, it was a little bit more like that rather than with the air starting or with the air and muscle starting together. When she went to the whoa at the top, the W allowed the air and muscle to come together because that W glide just gets a little bit of air moving without adding a ton of muscle. So it was kind of interesting as she went up, it felt like it was getting harder, and then she used that W to make it super easy on the top. You're not gonna get a lot of sound. I guess you'll get some. I don't know, that worries me having him be that far out, and it was still a pretty big sound. I'm not sure if there was funny business there or if I just don't know how microphones work, but it did look like he was not trying very hard. I just don't know what was going on in that clip well enough to say anything about it. Sounded good though. Really light, really easy. It's like a baby voice. They listen so well to each other. Nice. The thing that was impressive to me is when he went up, he was then able to stop the sound and come back in without getting too big. He was able to maintain the same feeling that he had before he stopped the sound, where sometimes it's a lot harder actually to come back in on high notes. It's easier to have a little bit of a running start, like if you're ascending something, or if you're coming in on a crescendo rather than just coming in full volume. So I think he did a pretty good job there. It was almost disconnected. It didn't have the same sort of resistance that the bottom note did, but it did, I mean, not every note needs to be as full and woofy and big as if you were holding on to that kind of weight. She still had her vocal cords together for most of it. It was a pretty clear sound. It wasn't very breathy, but it was less resistant than the note beneath it. That was a G. It wasn't like a super, super high note, but a G isn't generally an easy note if you are untrained. It sounded like he was kind of pulling up the chest voice configuration, but it's going to give it a really big sound. My worry with pulling up chest like that, though, is it's going to be harder for him to go higher, and it's going to be hard to sing up there for very long. I think that if he let a little bit more of his resonance move up, this feeling move up, and for the muscles responsible for head voice to start coming in just a little bit more, it would maybe be a little bit more sustainable. It was good. It still sounded easy and clean. It's just, that's kind of the question of, is it worth making improvements on something that's already good? Because I think it is, and I think that that's how the best people get better, is by just working harder and harder every day so that they could get really good at something. It was a pretty easy sound. It wasn't like super open and big sounding, and it doesn't have to be. What I think was nice about it was she just embraced the sound of her voice, which was a little bit smaller right there, and didn't push into it. Because it doesn't matter how open or closed your vowels are if you're gonna push too much. We don't want to push with singing. It should just be letting things happen really easily. The body doesn't need to push to make notes. Good. Yeah, she's good. That's a nice vibrato on it also. Again, it wasn't pushed. She just wasn't pushing. She had pretty open vowels actually, but because it was a thinner vocal fold and it was mixing, it didn't push. If she was trying to get that same note with that same vowel and was getting like really chesty sound and pushing into it, it wouldn't be nearly as good as what she just did. But she just let it go up there, let it ring, let it be easy.
Already?
That's nice. It's pretty connected, and that's the C5. It's the tenor high C. It's not nearly as big as like if an opera guy was singing a tenor high C. It's a much thinner sound, but again, it doesn't matter. Like they don't need to sound like opera guys. It just sounds easy up there, and if people are digging the sound, that's enough. Nice. Cool, so she didn't actually have a very closed E. That's the tendency with the E vowel, is for it to stay E versus opening up a little bit. It actually modified more towards I. So the pitch went up, but her mouth didn't have to change very much because she already found a vowel that worked in that area. And she didn't go so high that she really had to change her mouth. Nice. Nice. She's really good. That was good. It was still kind of like that metal scream. That lets your vocal cords really thin out as you go higher, but maintain some resistance so that it's a connected sound. I like that. That's easy. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's an easy high note. I listen to mostly whether it sounds easy or not, and if it doesn't sound easy, why? Because usually singing should sound and feel pretty easy. If it doesn't, I hope that you're doing it on purpose. Audiences, they empathetically relate to the singer that they're watching. If it sounds hard, people are gonna start feeling it. Like, there are times where I go to shows and I feel physically tired by the end, and I didn't open up my mouth at all, just because it's like, oh no, are they gonna be able to make it or not? I love this because she's not in that situation. She's just letting it be easy and letting it be high, not pressing into it, not trying to make it more than it needs to be. Oh, that's a nice open sound, round. I like that. Nice. Yeah, again, she just kept her mouth a little bit more open, found a vowel that worked for that first note, and then as she ascended for the other notes, she didn't really change her mouth. She didn't start widening it, and she didn't even narrow it. Sometimes people over narrow also. It's not just over widening. But she just kept what was working and let her vocal cords stretch underneath it so that it would produce higher pitches. It leaves it with a really consistent sound. I like the harmony. That was a nice harmony. She's so good. Just easy. It's letting it move up into the nose a little bit. I usually try to help people find this feeling by using nasals like NG, or like nasty pharyngeal sounds like nya, 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 because it just helps you feel this nasal airflow a little bit more. It helps you feel what it's like for high notes to be up in your head, but still connected. That's the thing, is sometimes people either let go or try to pull up too much weight. She's connected. She's holding on to a feeling of substance, of connection as she goes higher, but she doesn't have to change anything else. The same amount of resistance that's working for her low notes is working for the high notes. Cool. Yeah, up to the A. That's nice. Do you feel how small that was, though? That was just this teeny little sound, teeny little buzz from his vocal cords, and then he was able to open his mouth so that that buzz would turn into something bigger. But it's just like a really small feeling. It's not pressing into it, and that's the only way that you can really get up into that A5 area, is by letting it be super easy. Most guys can't just press into it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Go check out my website, vocalease.net, if you're interested in signing up for a voice lesson over Skype or FaceTime. In the description, I have links for my Patreon, for my Instagram. I would love it if you go check those out. And leave a comment if you learned anything, or if you're mad at me about anything, or whatever you're feeling today. Have a good one.